What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I thought we would take a look at a viral string of tweets, actually, because, you know, these sites tend to, just repost the same thing over and over. It's about tipping developers, and I thought that it would be an interesting conversation to have with you guys. Again, it's seemingly making the rounds. There's a lot of comments, and it seems like a good engagement kind of farming-like thing. So I saw this from IGN. Again, there's plenty of different places that did it. The former boss of Blizzard has suggested a tip feature that would let players give $10 to $20 extra dollars to developers. And in the actual article itself, now he does say he knows that most are not going to agree with it, right? So he kind of gets that out of the way, although he does it at the end of this article, or where they put it in the article. So he says that he's often felt that upon completion of a particularly enjoyable single-player game, he'd like to give more money to the developers because it was worth more than my initial $70, and they didn't try to nickel and dime me every second. He mentioned that this sparks such feelings, including in Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Baldur's Gate, Elden Ring. I know $70 is already a lot, but it's an option at the end of the game I wish I had at times. Some games are that special. And then IGN goes into their breakdown, and at the very end he says, I know most will dislike this idea. By the way, I realize we are tired of tipping in everything else, but I view this different from a pressure to tip type scenario many face and give feedback on. Now, there's a lot of conversation back to it. I don't actually think I'm going to be as extreme. I will say this. When I first saw this, without kind of reading all of what we just read, when you just see the tweet, it does come across, I think, wrong. I feel just generally. You look at the tweet and you say, this is an ex-Blizzard boss. This guy is not really speaking for, the average worker, the average man, right? I think, and I still kind of believe part of that. I don't know, Blizzard is not the most, they don't do the greatest things of all time in terms of the consumer happiness kind of scale. They do a lot of questionable things. And then when you talk about tipping developers, there's a couple of things that come up, right? Developers, a lot of them do actually make quite a bit of money. Now, hey, if you're into it, you tip it. I guess that's where I don't feel so aggressive that I've seen kind of other people be online. I would say, just as a blanket statement in my thoughts that I've said for a long time, it's your money to do what you want or not want, right? So ultimately, if there was literally a tip feature that was put on the PlayStation Store or Steam or whatever, and this does happen indie-wise, people have pointed this out. There's a couple indie websites or indie kind of crowdfunding pages where you can literally directly tip, say, an indie studio, and you could just give them money. So they do actually have this. It's just not really in the AAA space. And like I was saying, it's your money. You either tip or don't tip. You either buy a game or don't buy a game. I do want to remain consistent to that point because I've said that a lot on this channel. I don't want to break it, and I feel like any other way would be kind of breaking. I also just believe in that, right? Leave my money alone. I'll leave your money alone. However, you do think, okay, well, developers, they do make quite a bit of money. There's also a thing that was, pointed out, and it's not that hard to come to this conclusion. If you were to tip, especially in the AAA space, if you were to tip, there is 0% chance that is going directly to the average Joe that gave you that game. That's kind of where there, I feel, is somewhat of a disconnect in gaming, and that's more of a larger scale, almost philosophical thing, right? Somebody could maybe create your favorite part in a game. You might not actually know their name. You might not, you might know the head creatives, and maybe they had something to do with it, but the individual people slaving away, and look, it's a job that they chose to do, so slaving away, I don't really love to even use that term, right? These people are doing the work, but you might never actually know nor care about these people. I think a lot of that is just kind of fundamental, that's just what you've come to expect with society, with game development. It just is what it is. So that would be, in terms of his own suggestion, and maybe it's why people kind of get so mad, right? He's looking at this from a head of a company type thing. Honestly, if you were to tip developers, it would probably go to him first, and then it would filter down to a him-like figure. He's not there anymore, right? But you also have to think, well, if you put that, say, on the PlayStation Store, Xbox, or Steam, they all take their own percentages, right? Sony has a cut, and that's the whole thing with Xbox and PlayStation. If Xbox puts a game on PlayStation, PlayStation gets a cut of that, and the rest would go to Xbox, and vice versa. So that's something you have to keep in mind as well. So you'd be tipping, say, $10. Well, by the time it gets to the developer or the publisher, let's say, right? I mean, like, it could have already lost $3, $4, $5, and then it gets to them, and are they going to go over and say, hey, you worked on the level design, here's your, $2 tip? It's kind of messy, but I will say this. Another thing to the not that extreme and why, I can see where some people would be coming at this with. I've said this before as a specific example. Life is Strange, the first Life is Strange game, I freaking love it, and I've loved it ever since it came out. I actually bought that game twice, and I feel like, if anything, like, there are ways to show support. You know what I mean? Not to be like where it's like, well, I'm a YouTuber, and there is ways for me to show support that I think other people can't do. There's also people far bigger than me that can show support in bigger ways than me, right? But if I love, say, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I can make like 30 videos on it. And in a way, that's my showing of support. Other people may have some value from that. Maybe the developers or publishers get some value. You know what I mean? So I do have a, unique way. Some people do have unique ways. But to Life is Strange, I actually bought that game twice. I bought it when it first came out digitally. It was released, episodically. I bought the season pass. And then when the game actually had the collector's edition, which was physical, it came with a soundtrack. I have it. And I have the soundtrack over there. It's a beautiful soundtrack. So again, like, is that going directly to the average Joes that don't nod that made me Life is Strange? No, it doesn't go to them. That's, again, that kind of disconnect where it's like you're helping the game. And I think, again, going back to that basic point, you help or you don't help a game as much as you want to help it. You know what I mean? I think buying the game is enough. And I think that's also where people are coming at this in terms of, again, I'm kind of going positive, negative, positive, negative. A negative that people have, brought up again is, well, and he brought it up, games are expensive. $70 is already asking a lot. So you want to do 70 and then you want to leave like a $20 tip. Like, look, a lot of games are not actually worth $70. Now, your worth of 70 is different than mine, right? So to some people, maybe every game is worth 70. To other people, maybe, maybe like 2 games a year are worth $70. Now, what about $90? What about $100? It becomes kind of crazy, right? Because it goes that high. We're also living in a live service age, which probably is the number one thing that makes... sorry it took me so long to get here. That's probably the number one thing that makes this look bad, right? Again, reading his actual quote, I don't think he comes at it with like the most malicious intent, but we are in this age of constantly getting content where the game doesn't even come out complete. And to be fair, we're living in an age where a lot of AAA games disappoint people. Now, not everyone. I have said, maybe controversially, I think this is the worst console generation, and I say that largely because of the AAA games, whether it's exclusive, whether it's third party. I think we're living in the worst era. Does that mean that every game is garbage? No. Okay, don't twist my words. But no, honestly, I have said that before, and I do think that kind of filters its way through how people see this comment, where it's like $70 is a lot. It may already even be too much money. Sometimes the games don't even come out complete. Actually, most games come out some form of bugginess or like not working. A lot of games are live service, so they're just going to like work over time. You know what I mean? They'll just keep adding to it over time. You might actually end up paying more money. Some people or some companies lock things behind paywalls and whatnot. It doesn't look great when we're living largely in that era. Like, this is the era of that. We've had loot boxes and we've had other things in the past eras, but this is kind of a bad era for not coming out with complete packages, paying more than ever for a game over longer periods of time than ever before. You know what I mean? Like, that's the era we're in. So then to say like, hey, tip us. No, I don't think I will. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the reception, and that is the way people have interpreted what he said. But I just kind of want to throw out, all the different ways I've seen it be interpreted. Ultimately, like I said, like, your money is your money. You either buy the game, and that's the ultimate way of showing support. Like, no matter, I think, where you land on it, buying the game for $70 or not is your way of supporting it or not supporting it. To do the extra tip would literally be extra. Again, would it actually even get to these people? And you could argue so many other things, right? But at its core, you make the decision daily to either support a game or not support a game with just the simple, again, like videos or tweets, engagement, social media. That's like the extra stuff. And maybe that stuff matters, maybe that stuff doesn't matter. But at its basic core, just buying the game or not buying the game, right? That's literally what shows the support. So the tip thing is extra. The tip, I don't know. I think at this point, the IGNs of the world and a lot of different Twitter handles have been reposting it and just posting it, multiple times. They're just doing it for engagement. It does get a lot of engagement. There's a lot of, responses, not a lot of, it's kind of getting ratioed, I guess, for everybody that's posting it. They're getting like equal amounts of comments per like. So it's not a popular opinion. But yeah, I think it's actually a little bit more nuanced than just a couple Twitter words, honestly. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.